experts in the biggest questions in tech. This is Making Revenue Tick. So we've actually just finished recording the episode. So Silvia, for people who are just joining us now, what have they got in store for the next hour?
It was such a high energy conversation, Richard. It's hard to come up with just a couple bullet points, but let me take a stab at it. So the first is we explore why traditional or conventional practices in prospecting and networking fall short using brain friendly and brain science backed principles. So that's the first layer that we approached and tackle. And then to support a contrast state or the generation of something better, we then looked at the in-group, out-group dynamics that most of our brains actually engage in and how to break through being stuck in the out-group categorization in the eyes of our prospective clients or even our current clients. So that's the second tidbit that we got into. And then third piece that I would really love for your listeners to maybe engage with us on further is this notion of, so what do we do about all this, right? How do we successfully land our messaging in such a way that would invite a positive reaction or response from those that we want to engage more of, and really turn those service level conversations into trust building, trust garnering, credibility building type conversations.
Amazing. Yeah, I would say on top of that, that this is about taking that research piece that everyone knows they have to do in selling to a completely different level, but actually in very simple and practical ways, which
Welcome, everybody, to the TV show Together We Serve. It's Friday, just a little past 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And thank you for joining us, or thank you for listening to this recording. How many want to engage more, network more, grow your revenue? We have to grow our revenue, get bills to pay. We all do. I hear that all the time from people. I can't do that. I got bills to pay. Yeah, you can. You need to connect with people because you're in the people asset business. That's what I say. You got to develop people. And what does that mean? Develop relationships. Well, what she said in the video, our guest, you got a little piece of her, high energy, what she's all about. But she's much more than that. So let's bring her on. Silvia, welcome to the show.
Hi, Steve. Great to be here. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. And I got to ask, where's the energy come from?
Just joy, looking at life in an abundant mindset, and just knowing that good shit happens when you focus on the positive.
Right. So when something negative happens to you, you don't focus on it.
Well, it's an ever-developing habit and practice to choose positive. So Barb Moses, I think, might be on the line. Kevin Fink is certainly on the line. So they are my teachers in that mindset. So when negative shows up, positive is available for us to choose. So it's not that I don't look at it at all or I ignore it completely. Yet I've been practicing pausing and going, what else is possible?
God, I love it. And Kevin Fink's the gentleman you introduced me to?
Yes. The honey badger of human potential.
Yes. Shout out to Kevin. I just helped him with his starting his podcast. And oh my God, this is great. Well, shout out to you, Kevin. So good. So happy that you're here. Networking, you talked about it, and that's why I pulled that video up. And I'm a component of that. You've seen it. We've done it both. But people really need to understand what's the power of networking.
Steve, the way I think about networking or interaction of any kind between two human beings is to facilitate something different, better, or more energetic, more possible. So I think about how when two people are coming into a space, right? It could be a physical space, it could be a virtual space like this, where they are bringing two brains or multiple brains to the table. There's an opportunity to co-create, again, something new, right? By way of an insight. It could be a different perspective that each other can bring to the other side. So the idea of networking or conversing or interacting, I think it's for us to compound what else is possible. So that is how I look at it. It is, I think, much different than how I looked at it at the beginning of my career, which was the way I was taught to network was show up somewhere and shove business cards in people's faces, right? To be like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, right? And so that I did not really align with. So I sought out a different option, an alternative to that approach. So that, in a nutshell, is how I've been looking at networking, or why I look at networking and connecting in the way that I do.
Crowd's loving what you're saying, because I just listened to Darren Hardy. He does a video every morning, the success, you like him or not. I love his content. And he talked about that. You know, you get all these business cards, but there's no identity. Like, I just did it to a convention. I got all these business cards. Like, I don't remember these people. I just threw them away. I didn't build a relationship with them.
No.
That's partly my fault, but maybe it wasn't something interesting. They're just throwing cards at you. You know, your conferences, and hey, here, Silvia, take my card. Okay, we'll take them. It just becomes fire later on.
Exactly.
You talk a lot about engagement. You talked about in that video, which will bring up more of that. What's a tip or two you can give people about being better engagers? Is that a word? Engager.
Yes.
I guess we'll make it a word.
We're going to make it a thing here, Steve, right here.
Yeah,
It started right here. Yeah. One tip that I often think about and advise people to keep in the back of their heads is this notion that most people want to be heard and seen and understood. So if that is the baseline, if you will, right? From there, we can absolutely do a number of really high energy, high yield things. Put them first. Start with them first. Ask about them first. So I often advise, especially younger business associates, those who are maybe just starting out in their career, to come to networking events and conversations with a slate of questions. So instead of practicing or rehearsing what they want to talk about in terms of their experiences, right, their resume or their goals and ambitions and aspirations, really shift the focus to a couple of really high yield, engaging questions. So if you want to be an engager, have engaging questions prepared ahead of time that you can ask in order to invite feedback, input, stories, even from the other side. When human brains connect via stories, an emotional connection and bond start to emerge.
Bam!
I love that. What is that? The drum set?
Yeah, exactly. I supposed to be. We'll say it was a mic drop too, because here's the thing. You mentioned questions a couple times. It's not being done. I'm just thinking about as you're saying that, my meetings I had this week, I asked all the questions, which is fine, but it's amazing how people don't ask questions. And I'm thinking everybody's doing it. Talk about that, and the goal with somebody when they come in to meet somebody, how many questions, what kind of questions?
I'll tell a story, Steve. I recently had the privilege of working with a team of very seasoned business development professionals. And they were at first skeptical of this idea of asking questions because they didn't want to be seen or perceived as not knowing. So they very much value their industry expertise. They want to be seen as the go-to people, go-to advisors, thought partners. Yet the irony, or the sort of the contradiction in all of this, was the more they try to impart their expertise, the less connected people felt with them. So they were showing up to throw up, essentially, right? Your words, not mine. So what I had this group do was come up with just 3 really engaging questions that they would want to try on for size in an upcoming client meeting. And one of the business development managers, she took this to heart. So she practiced writing out questions on the airplane before the meeting. And then the next day, she opened with, in addition to the shooting the breeze questions, she opened with a really thoughtful question. And she told me after the meeting that in the first time ever in her career, this whole group of people, 26 of them, all talked they led the meeting, like the client side. On the client side, they led the meeting. They contributed so many good tidbits to how they could co-create more success for their end clients. And she even was like, I probably talked maybe at most 20%. I'm going to venture to guess it was 10 to 15%. Yet the result was astounding because the other side, the client side, proactively asked to meet with her again the following week. And she said, never in my career had anybody that willingly and eagerly asked for time. I mean, they would agree to having time with me, but it was never that proactive. and she's a lovely person. She's like, I'm a nice person. I'm an engaging person. Or so I thought, until I experienced this contrast in this meeting, because I came in with the intention and the preparation to invite conversation and input from the other side.
It's a powerful story because it reminds me of experts I've interviewed that have told me I'm the founder, CEO, director, manager, whatever that title that I'm leading the meeting. I need to talk less than everybody else. I'm like, come on. He goes, no. All my successful meetings, I made mistakes. I'm human. I'm fallible. Or I'm over talking. When I don't do that, like this wonderful lady, our meetings were fabulous. But you just opened up a can of worms for me personally, because that's what I felt. If I asked questions, I'd be stupid, or look at me as like, Steve, you're so dumb. How come you don't know that? Now I embrace being the stupidest guy in the room. And I mean that, right? Talk about that. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. What you're describing, Steve, is a learner mindset or a growth mindset even, right? I think those kind of go hand in hand. I think they actually compound each other or accentuate each other, in that you are there to add, right, to the energy of the room. You're there to co-create. This growth mindset means that we're not there just to prove ourselves. We're there to see what else is possible and to affect that, to impact that for others around us, right, in the same room and beyond. So I love that idea of coming to the table and going, it's not about what I know. It's not about making me the hero. It's about making all of us the hero in our respective stories, in our respective walks of life, and to help facilitate more of those aha moments that will probably lead to a win-win-win in most circumstances.
Heroes are only Marvel and DC comics and movies. And I mean that. We don't need heroes. People are, well, if I said I'm a hero, people want to hear that. They don't care less.
No.
But they care about how you can help them, right?
That's
and
right.
Here's something I just came to my audience. What she's bringing out is, when I'm the stupidest person in the room, I become smarter. And I'm smarter today because I do that. And so powerful. Well, I started this way because it leads to revenue, which you're an expert at. Because if you don't start this way by learning and growing, and you're not going to be able to build client base, a customer base, because you're not going to be able to sell. You can't sell until I know Silvia. I don't know why people reach out to me in emails and go, hey, you need my lead company because your podcast sucks because of this, this, and this. It's basically what they're telling me, and expect them to put $1,000 down. Don't sell that way, audience, if you're trying to. Stop that. Let's talk about what's really the importance of revenue. We know it's to pay bills, but what's your thought on the importance of revenue in a company?
The way I think about revenue, Steve, is that it is the financial reward for us guiding our clients to a breakthrough. So the magnitude of the breakthrough that we're enabling in our clients is commensurate to that financial reward, aka revenue, income, right? Income generation. That is how I think about it. So if we're unable or less able to generate or help the other side generate a kind of breakthrough, an aha moment, what I call a BRAINSynced state, usually the other side will say no to us, or at best maybe to us, and thereby delaying that financial reward or recognition.
And that leads to a question I just got, which is perfect timing. So doing a background check. It might be even Kevin. I don't know who. I love this question because I think fractionals are gold right now. They're really popular, but a lot of people don't know about them. Talk about what that is.
So the question I'm reading on the screen is, what is a fractional chief revenue officer? So think of that as somebody coming into an organization for all intents and purposes, a part-time basis. So that is the closest analogy that I can draw on, which is to go, they are there to affect sales team performance, sales strategy, sales operations, yet in a somewhat limited capacity or a well-defined capacity. So most fractional CROs that I know, they are servicing, they are partnering with, and they're impacting a couple of different clients, each maybe a day, a week, or maybe 2 to 3 times a month. And the idea is that they are ever still having a foot in the outside world, so they can bring in knowledge sets and accumulated expertise from beyond one company's four walls to, again, affect more strategic plans, more strategic outcomes in the revenue generation arena.
Nonprofits and startups' tendency to wear all hats. I'm a startup. I'm the founder of this startup. I got to do everything because I can't afford it. Well, I don't know anything about revenue. Why should I be doing that? Talk about the power and the benefit of that fractional in a case like that.
Yeah, though again, this is from what I've known from clients that have used fractional CROs or chief sales officers. I have friends and colleagues who are fractional chief revenue officers and chief sales officers, and the benefit really is that there's that cognitive spacing, right? So a lot of times when somebody is in-house full-time, we get blinders. We develop these blinders. And so I look at it from a brain science perspective of how great it is that somebody is there, 20% of the time, maybe 30% of the time, 50% of the time, so they don't develop those blinders, or it's a little bit easier to take those blinders off. So I think it's a really strategic play. Sometimes, right, when we get too simmered in something, we're too microscopic about something, we lose the touch, right? We kind of lose the sense of direction, or just, again, there's that bias, right? When we are so embedded or when we're so close to something, we tend to have, this aversion to risk, right? We don't want our baby to be called ugly. And actually, that is the leadership paradox that a lot of organizations struggle with, in that, right, the leaders have blinders on, not because they want to, be wrong per se, but it's just by virtue of them being there, right, simmering in the same things every single day, looking at the same people, looking at the same four walls. So familiarity bias, right, cognitive laziness, as we call it, start to emerge.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos doesn't run his HR department. He probably doesn't see any of those people because he hires the quality people to do it, whether it's fractional or regular. And I love fractional for that. Nonprofits are really known, and you work with some nonprofits. They forget they're a business, and they need to run it as a business, but it's just a different type business.
Exactly that.
What's a tip for a lot of nonprofits that listen to this show? What's a tip you give for a nonprofit when it comes to revenue?
It's so interesting you asked that. So I just talked to Jan Barlow. Hi, Jan. I think you might be on the line as well. So hello to Jan if she's on the line. So the one area that I've seen repeatedly as an opportunity for nonprofits in terms of growing the revenue is to really tune into the BRAIN of the donors, corporate sponsors, really clarify not just the ask, but also tying it with the kinds of outcomes that the donation or the financial contribution would produce. So a lot of folks, they tend to, at least like from what I've seen, they think about how, we just got to repeatedly ask, we just got to stay, in front of them. just become that name that they would see all the time. So exposure, they equate exposure or activities or volume of activities as connection. Yet there is this practice that I like to think about and often advise companies of all sectors and verticals and industries, in that we have to absolutely translate the so what for not only the people that we're engaging with, but their end constituents, whoever those people might be. So it could be their internal clients, it could be their own family members, it could be the end patients, right? Whatever that end constituent is, oftentimes the value chain or the message to that value chain stops short. It doesn't go all the way through. So I would advise everybody listening to think about not just how you are approaching your target audience, but also think about how you are impacting, or you could help them impact their end constituencies or audience members even better, even more rigorously.
You're as smart as a billionaire, because a billionaire told me exactly what you said. He used this phrase: never go wide, always go narrow. People want to sell to everybody. Yeah, I love that. The boat going through the water with that arrow, it goes through. I love that, because we lose sight of it. We go, oh, I got to make money. But if you sell to somebody who doesn't care about your product, they're not going to buy it anyways.
Precisely that.
Yeah,
and
right?
A lot of times the pain points, right, that sales training modules teach, they don't stop with just our own prospects, right? They have customers. They are on the hook for that revenue generation piece, right, from their end customers. So, their brand absolutely could be impacted if, our prospects or clients don't serve their end clients well, if they're not aligned with them, or the value, the ROI is not there. So, yet I'm always amazed that most sales training methods and practices, they start and end with your target and not go all the way through.
Yeah, I love that. And you talk to a lot of people, mentor like I do, and I get a lot of, who do you sell to? And they go, everybody that needs to make money, everybody that wants to grow their business. Very generic comments, when it should be, I'm looking for plumbers who want to grow their business and scale from 5 to 10 million, or 100,000 to 100 million, whatever. Because, audience, here's a tip: when you network, don't tell people I work with everybody, because it's not true.
Well,
It's
Steve,
not.
exactly
Right?
that. And I see an interesting phenomenon of late where I think it is from this notion of specifying your target audience. A lot of people, or let me rephrase, I've seen a number of folks come to me and say something like, well, I don't want this, I don't want that. Well, the brain doesn't really register negative in this case, right? So if I were to tell you, Steve, do not look at anything that is in the color yellow, what are you going to do next? You're going to probably spot everything that is yellow. Right now, I planted the seed in your brain about yellow, right? You might be telling yourself, don't look at something yellow, but what are you actually doing? Pointing your attention to something that's yellow. So, I would just, share this tidbit with those that are listening. Again, the clearer you are about whom you're meant to serve, whom you can impact positively, the better. At the same time, be cautious about how you are framing that. So really focus on what is that profile, what is that type of leader or company or team that you can really impact and are called to serve, and move away from the negation of it, if that makes sense.
Makes a ton of sense. Oh my God, audience, I hope you wrote that down. And if you're listening to a recording, that will make you $1 million. I'm not lying. That will make you $1 million, because it just focuses the business where all your time's going to the right place. And I don't know what you're doing, but questions are flying in here.
Oh, well, let's hear some of them.
This is a good one. How do you measure sustainable revenue growth?
Ooh, the way I do it. So this is according to Sylvia's perspective on the world. I think about repeat clients. How many of them, how strong those relationships are according to them, not me. So this is where right, terms like strategic accounts, strategic partnerships, right, high yield, this and that, that is literally in the eye of the beholder, not us. So in terms of sustainable revenue growth, I really look at how big is our slate of repeatable clients, what are their patterns of engaging with us, and how committed are they, right, to the methodology, to the frameworks. So I look at more about the client's behaviors instead of ours. So this is a very client-centric lens on sustainable revenue growth. Let me pause here. Did that answer the question to the person who?
It did for me, and I'm the stupidest one in this room. So
No
you just took care of me.
No such thing.
And that leads to something that's really powerful: goals in revenue. I've talked to guys that doing 100,000 a year, and they go, 2025 they're doing 100,000. They want to do 50 million in 2026. It's possible. Anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Is it realistic where you're not going to slow down process or change your business? How important is that goal connection of revenue, being realistic to it?
Yeah, Steve, the way I would answer that is, what are you willing to do every day? So I have coached, I've had the benefit and privilege of coaching a lot of sales leaders and sales professionals over the years. Everybody comes to me with, I want to make this much money by the end of the year. I want to see this in my bank account. I want this boat. I want this and that. Great. I said, those are all really great things to want. My next question then is, what are you willing to do every day? So then it becomes much more of, I really don't like waking up early, or I really just want to work a couple hours a day. Okay, that's fair, right? So now we are getting into the realistic part of the planning process. So this is where we have to dial in and align what we're willing to commit to on a daily basis and see how that, right, could be bridged towards that macro audacious goal. 50 mil, okay, yeah, it's just a number really. Yet how is that going to show up, right, every day in terms of your commitment, your input, your contributions to the process? So that's how I would think about it.
That's powerful. I didn't even think about that, because somebody might say, I want to work two times a week, and that's absolutely fine.
Totally fine.
But you're not going to go 100,000. I mean, the chance to go from 100,000 to 50 million is going to be tough. The probabilities are lower, which is good or bad.
Well, in that case, right, it might just be a longer term runway, right? A longer runway.
Yeah.
So instead of going, we're going to do this in the next, single digit years, it might be double digit years. Okay, right? Again, we all want those big things, right? We want more zeros behind, right? Our bank accounts, right? Yet again, I always tell people, I don't look at how driven somebody is per se when I assess someone's probability of success in annual revenue generation. I look at their daily habits. What is on the freaking calendars of theirs, right? If it's, unorganized, or there's no specificity to how they're going to day part their day to contribute to those smaller chunk goals that would roll up and accumulate into the bigger chunk goals, like I can just take a look at someone's calendar over like the course of a week and be like, they ain't going to get there. Not in this way anyway. So it's a hard message for some people to hear. Yet most people, right, when I ask them, like, what are you willing to do every day? They usually do get fired up. They're like, you know what? I am willing to work for this. I just need a little bit of help structuring my day and getting focused, right? Or even kind of going like, hey, like I'm not unwilling to do business development. I'm not unwilling to do prospecting, but I just need a little bit of help to get a list together that will help me be at my best. Now we're getting into tactics, right? We're getting into the operational aspects of how to execute on a plan that will get us to the goal. So all that's to say, Steve, I think most of us are driven. I think the listeners who are joining, especially on a Friday afternoon at 5:30 Eastern,
Yeah.
right? We're all motivated, ambitious people who want to impact more people. I think sometimes we just need a little bit of help clarifying what that day-to-day ought to look like. How do we break this down into chunks that we can operationalize and see ourselves executing on?
So I'll use a sports analogy. You're building a playbook by the team they're playing against.
That's right.
A playbook comes, I'm playing the 49ers. It's my team. The 49ers, I'm the Rams. Okay, the 49ers is that $50 million goal. So I build a playbook around. It's so powerful. Audience, oh my God, this lady, she's awesome.
You're
I'm just
too
going to say
kind,
that.
Steve. Well, you're
That-
such a great interviewer. I mean, truly, like I just think about how you unleash people's brilliance by your line of questioning. Like I'm sitting here going like, I mean, wow, like just the way that you're able to focus in and bring everyone's attention to these high energy things, right? That I think most of us want to talk about, certainly with our confidants and friends. Yet, how cool it is that we get to do it here and on a Friday, no less, and from with people from all over the U.S.
yeah.
or North America
Yeah.
or even the world.
Well, it's easy. It's easy because we both want to impact people, and that's just powerful. So let's take a break. We'll take about a 5 to 8 minute break. I want Silvia to get some water. We're going to watch a little bit more Silvia on this great podcast she was on, and we'll come back. A little teaser. Brain cells. Got to come back because when I first heard this, my head blew off. Of course, it came back on my neck, but for a minute it blew off. You want to hear more about brain cells? So we'll be right back.
Will change massively your positioning from everyone else in the market today who's trying to do the old playbooks and the traditional ways. This is a masterclass. So without further ado, let's roll the VT. Hello and welcome to Making Revenue Tick. I am very excited because I'm joined by someone that I've only spoken to a couple of times, but I have an amazing affinity to straight away, Silvia Li. Silvia, how are you?
Great, Richard. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here and to converse with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. We got introduced by probably the most successful and prolific introducer that I've ever met, Stephen Oman. And he said, you have to speak to Silvia. You have to speak to her. So I was already going into the conversation with you with high expectations because he doesn't do dud referrals. But then we just talked about anything and everything. And I got all of your energy. And I really believe in that stuff, like we were talking about in the green room. But there's also some stuff that you're doing that's incredibly cool and very innovative in a world that's struggling to just find out what's going to go and be successful. So we talked about a topic that would be a wonderful thing for us to do a masterclass on, a version of the Making Revenue Tick podcast, which was about how founders and how startups can go and capture that market share with of ICP clients and then convert that into demand. So why is that topic one that you
Well,
care
Richard, let's just start with the reality of our days, right? So I'm sure when you open your inbox in the morning, you're inundated with all kinds of emails, right? From people you know, from people you don't know, yet who want to know you. And let me ask you, how many of those messages do you actually open and pay heed to?
So I open a very small fraction. I pay heed to 0.
Great. And why is that?
They're not relevant. I think that a huge amount of them are it's just AI, and a lot of them I know it's like the sequence. I go, what, that's a really familiar like subject line that sounds like they know me. I look at it and it's the third email as part of a sequence. And I'm like, oh my goodness gracious me, not again. So a huge amount of it is just, I am on someone's list. There's no
Yes.
real personalization, or it's this horrible fake personalization of like, hey, you went to Bournemouth University. What was summer prom like? By the way, we sell this. And I'm like, ah. So it's just thoughtless spam
Mhm.
rather than stuff that I go, oh my gosh, you got into my brain.
Precisely that, right? So we are inundated with hundreds of thousands of bits of information every second, every minute, right? Like, and multiply that, right, across the 8 to 10, 12 hours we're in our home offices or physical offices. And I just think about how right now in the age of information, connection, right, human to human connection is woefully under indexed. So that's why I'm so excited to talk about this topic of how do we garner attention from the people that we want to engage with. Now, I'm of the belief that if we want to see changes in how others respond to us, it has to start with us, right? Really examining how we're showing up or not showing up. What are our behaviors and habits and actions that are generating the kinds of results?
Welcome back to Together We Serve. Halftime is over. I hope that she's hydrated because I've got a lot of great questions. And, think about it. Your brain actually does the selling. Crazy, huh? We don't think about that. Sorry about the pun there. But we're going to talk about that because eventually we all want to sell. And it's just not in business, personally, too. I want to sell to my wife that I'm a great husband. I want to sell to my best friends that I'm a good guy, this or that. We're selling all the time, and it's always coming from this rock on our head. And I got a big rock. And we got to know how to work with it. So let's bring her back on because she's so awesome. Silvia, welcome back. God bless you, man. I'm listening
having
to
so
that.
much fun, Steve. Heck yeah.
Me too. And we're helping so many people. But, when I first met you, it was interesting about the brain. And we all know it. It's funny. We all know this. We still don't utilize it. Talk about brain cells. I'm going to pull the website up. What you're doing with brain cells and what the goal is.
Yeah, so BrainSells Global was founded 7 years ago after my nearly 20 years of being a leader in large enterprise selling and strategic account management. And what I saw was a bunch of really talented, generous folks in business development who were given really shitty scripts to engage with clients. And it was nauseating to begin with. Yet I saw so many wasted opportunities to positively affect human beings. So here we were giving these really generous, smart, driven, again, right, like just wholehearted people, these low yield, low energy scripts. And they go out to the field and engage in that low energy way, which then completely like damages their own personal brand. It leaves the buy side feeling like their time was wasted, right? It was an utter waste of everyone's time and talents and expertise. And then, right, those people on the buy side, on the client side, they probably get a little flustered and they unfortunately end up taking it out on somebody else. So the downstream impact of a crappy sales script was so far, like, I just couldn't even believe that we were still doing these things in the 2000s. I'm like, okay, like there's no excuse. Like we were in an age of knowledge, right? Big data. We were, through the internet of things, like we had access to so much more knowledge, yet we were still behaving like we had no freaking clue about human beings at all. So all this to say, I said, something has to be done about that. I genuinely believe that we're all here to affect and positively impact everyone that we have the privilege of coming in contact with. We just have to learn how differently and a bit better than maybe what we've been left with, previous in previous eras. So all that's to say, BrainSells was founded to do exactly that, to examine and explore how else can we forge more wholehearted human connections in the realm of business development. So to really flip upside down notions of selling, what it means to be a great seller, and how to engage the buy side using brain and behavioral science. So what you referred to a moment ago, Steve, is the brain syncing framework and method that I formulated. It was actually one of those like really funny moments. I was sitting there trying to explain why brain science, or what is it about my approach that's significantly different. And like all of a sudden I'm like, well, BRAIN, duh. Yeah, BRAIN does spell 5 different words. So we're going to look at how that plays out, what those letters mean and what each means in terms of how we choose to connect, how we choose to show up to connect with other human beings, human brains, literally, in the context of commercial success conversations. It could be right at home with each other, even maybe with your teenage children. I've heard that be applied to a very tough to crack nuts who is a 13-year-old girl who used to give one-word answers. Now she's actually conversing with her parents using BRAIN syncing. So that is, in a nutshell, the journey that led us to BrainSells Global and the brain syncing framework.
And audience, braincells.org. You see it. I'll keep it on the screen. You can check it out. I've got some great questions about mindset, and this is one's very interesting. How much does education and school play with my revenue mindset? What I'm going to assume is, and I don't have a degree. I've got an AA, but I don't have a master's or a PhD or any of that. How important is that with revenue mindset?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I was thinking about this the other day. So my nieces, for this school year, they are going to a fantastic charter school. So I was talking to my brother about education for the girls and what opportunities they now have access to because of this shift to this charter school for all 3 of them, I believe. So anyway, all this to say, at least when I was still in formal education, the mindset was not very conducive to being an entrepreneur, let alone revenue generation. And by that, I mean, I think about how most of the instances that I encountered in formal schooling, they amplify my fixed mindset at the time. So fixed mindset is one where we believe that our purpose in work or school is to prove ourselves, aka get the grade. Right, pass the test, be ranked whatever, right, in school against your peers. And feedback in this case would be very damaging because it negates maybe our sense of, right, our social status, or even our ranking. So if we think that we're great, or we think we need to look great in order to be accepted, right, in order to sort of play the game, if you will, then anything that jeopardizes that vision or that image, aka feedback, right, opinions of others, literally someone's evaluation of us, becomes very threatening to the brain. So all that's to say, in terms of mindset, right, healthy mindset, I don't think I really developed that in school. It was many, many years later, after my formal schooling, that I started to be open even to a new possibility that right, there could be a different way of living life and seeing the world and engaging with humans. So in terms of a revenue mindset, so I'm curious as to how those on the call today might define a revenue mindset. If it's really about say winning at all costs, right? So there is this prevailing mindset some years ago, and I think it's still exists in pockets of corporate America anyway, where, right, we got to win at all costs. We just got to get that deal. We got to just do what it takes, right, to get it across the line. Then I would say that that is not the revenue mindset that I would support or prescribe to. Unfortunately, in terms of formal education, at least when I went through it, it was a bit dog eat dog. Like, it's like you gotta do what it takes to get to the top. And at least the people that I was surrounded by, or that I chose to associate with anyway, it was very competitive in terms of approach and mindset and behaviors. If the mindset is one where you're more about co-creation, right, mutual wins, win-win-win, really truly leaving a positive impact on people. I'm also going to say that formal schooling doesn't really cover that, at least not when I went through it. I did hear since Carol Dweck came out with the growth versus fixed mindset research, that is now much more prominent amongst teaching professionals. So in school, my friend's a teacher. She teaches second grade. She references the growth mindset to her second graders. So I think there's hope. There's light.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's a huge light. And I think what that question means, and if you want to add another question, whoever sent that and sent, and I talk to people, it's like, well, you're doing so well. I didn't get a college degree. If you got a PhD or master's, I'm bowing to you every time I meet you, and I'm congratulating you. That's a ton of work and
Yes.
a lot of years of work. But if you don't have that, you can still have a lot of revenue. You could still own big companies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're saying. The growth mindset can come from anybody.
Yeah. And Steve, on top of that, so you bring up a great point in that the success mindset, I think maybe could be another way to look at this. The success mindset, I think, is something that I don't believe for a second that some people are born with it and some others aren't. I think it's developed. It's a choice. And it comes down to, again, the habits and the choices that we make on a regular basis. So even something like looking at failure, right? How do we reframe failure? Or how do we even talk about failure? Or how do we think about success, or what defines success for each of us? Those things, I would say, I learn along the way from doing, and with really great coaches like Kevin and Barb who are on the line today. So it was with the help of others who have seen the light, who have gone before me. It was through their wisdom and their own lessons learned that they were willing to share with me that I started to develop these behaviors and practices and habits that would support a success mindset, or a champion mindset even.
Yeah, I love that. The graph is never like this to be successful. Cuban, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. I'm not being political here. Those people are all successful in their own eyes, and success is your success. Silvia, your success might be different than mine, and that's okay.
Yes, exactly that.
Embrace that. I want to jump in because we're coming close to time here. Our title of this show is BrainSync to activate impact. What's the steps you can tell the audience to BrainSync?
Yeah, so let's look at BRAIN first, and then we can back into it, the how and the what's, if you will, Steve. So BRAIN syncing is a method, or a series of steps, if you will, to allow us to show empathy and co-create a much more enriching, connective experience with the other person that we're engaging in conversation with or interacting with. So it's about tuning into parts of the other side, if you will. And so let me spell out for you what BRAIN stands for. So B stands for believe. So what is their belief system? How do they look at the world? What do they see, right? What is literally in their perspective, physical or otherwise? The R is their operating reality. So R stands for reality. So what are they actually living through right now? What is that lived experience? What does that look like for this person? A is attention. So this is starting to, so it is in the middle on purpose, in that we start to flip from knowing what's inside their noggin to then figure out what are those dots from the external world that we can start to align to, again, to help shift their thinking or add to their thinking, or just be a really generous thought partner. So A is attention. It's really what is catching their time, energy, mind share, or what is not catching their attention that should be on their radar, so to speak. Then in terms of I is the insight. So I stands for insight, in that we now are starting to flip from just knowing what they're working with to go, what else is possible? So insight is that pivot point to go, how can we add impact? How do we add something different, better, or more energetic, more successful, more wholehearted, authentic to them? Yet it has to come from a generation of an insight that they have to undergo. So it's not us imparting knowledge or information. It's about us inviting and co-creating that insight with them. And then N stands for new action. So coming out of the thinking in order to guide the other side, to facilitate something, again, better, different, or more energetic, more successful, more aligned with them. We have to guide the brain towards something new to substitute what was there before. And so in this case, instead of just going, oh, I'm an empathetic person, or I have good intentions for the other side, now we are literally cooking through a recipe, right? This is the recipe that has 5 ingredients, BRAIN, right? To generate those bridges, to allow the other side's brain to recognize that we are here as a friend, first and foremost. So safety has to come first. Like, we are signaling to the other side that we're a friend, not a foe, that we are their in-group member or their fellow tribal member. And then from there, we can start to build trust. We can start to build reciprocity. The other side starts to look at us as one of their own, literally. So that is the gist of brain syncing.
And she's syncing my brain because we're coming to the end here. BrainSells.org. You can reach out to her, send her a message through that, connect with her. I'm going to give you a minute. This is going to be a quick answer. I've got a jet reserved for you. We're going to play a game here. It's 4 seats. You're going to sit in one of the seats. I'm going to be the co-pilot, so I get to be on the plane.
Ooh.
But those 3 empty seats, who are you going to invite to ask questions and get to learn from, and where are you going to fly to?
Ooh la la. Well, so I know where I'm going. I'm going to Hong Kong. That's where my family's from. So definitely go back to my roots. Yeah. Yeah, I already know where I'm going. Now, with whom? Oh, that's a great question. So definitely, by the way, can they be, or do they have to be like living?
Dead or alive. Dead or alive.
Dead or alive. Definitely my grandmother, because she's got to come home with me. So grandma has to be on the plane, and she'll probably demand really good food. So she'll make sure the food that's served on that darn plane will be absolutely delicious. Or she'll just like get up and cook it for us. So grandma has to come. Yeah, for sure. And then, I think I would like to have Roger Federer next to me to learn from in terms of that champion mindset. So Roger Federer, phenomenal tennis legend, recently retired, but just a heart of gold, the consummate professional, just a good dude. And I mean, beyond his skill sets, I just love how he was always cool as a cucumber under pressure. That's what makes champions. So I'd love to have Roger Federer. And then, gosh, you know what? I would love to have Brené Brown next to me to learn from. I have a lot of questions for her. And I would require all 16 hours.
Yes. Well, we got a lot of time, plenty of time. Well,
yeah, exactly.
Silvia, I knew this would be a great show. You far exceeded it. Thank you, Miles. I'm sure he's going to appreciate that. And anybody, if you want to reach out to me and get a hold of Silvia, I can do that for you. We'll see you all in the next episode, next Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Together We Serve TV show. And I don't know if we're going to top this show, but we're going to try very close. You all have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk soon.